Well, during Thanksgiving last week, I had the opportunity to spend a few moments with my math teacher, a man that I had in the classroom years ago. And he now works at a very nice smorgasbord over in Pennsylvania. He had Thanksgiving Day off, but the next day, Black Friday, he was expected to work. And he shared that in years past, Black Friday had just brought to them a huge amount of customers, because that's when everybody goes at the shop. But recently, while it's still a lot of customers I see on Black Friday, the numbers have gone down, and he attributed that to online shopping. And so as people do more shopping through their phones or computers or whatever, they don't go out as much on that particular day, and their customer load has gone down a bit. The shopping experience has definitely changed in recent years. Perhaps you've even noticed that for many stores, Black Friday started early and Cyber Monday went on days afterwards, as stores try to take advantage of those looking to spend money. As we recognize that some things about the Christmas season change, it's wise of us to ask every once in a while what things during the time of year, this time of year, are most likely to steal our attention away from God. He, after all, should be our primary focus in life. All that we do, say, or think should be in submission to Him and ultimately to the praise of His glorious grace. So let's think, what are some of the more unique challenges that we face during this time of the calendar year, particularly in our pursuit of God's glory? Life is to be about God. What about Christmas makes that purpose, living for God, more difficult? And this is not a rant against Christmas. We enjoy this season in our home. It's a wonderful time to focus on Christ and to try to serve those around us. But there are dangers. And you might recognize others, but here's a few that I thought of. One, we can easily become consumed with stuff, with things. And with this danger, it seems ironic and frustrating that as we try to show love for others and spend time looking for gifts, that in that pursuit of loving others, there's challenges that we can meet because we can experience stress and frustration along that path. So you might spend hours upon hours shopping online or in person, and those hours impact our hearts all too quickly because you're looking endlessly through things that you can buy. Maybe you're blessed to be the kind of person that just you go, pick up the present, you're done shopping. I don't know that kind of experience. That's just not me. And so it takes time to work through all the options, and that can be a negative thing for my heart. On the receiving end, the focus of our days leading into Christmas can become all about the presents. Perhaps the kids are more prone to this, but falling to sleep the night before Christmas can be quite a challenge. I think adults look forward to that time too. But there's dangers there. We can become consumed with things, with stuff. Another danger is related to the first, and that's selfishness. Don't you find, as you're looking at the deals, you're not only thinking, this would be good for that person or that person. What do you also think every once in a while? Man, that's perfect. That's what I was looking for, not for them, but for me. And so as we try to show love to others, there's that danger of seeing things that we would enjoy. That's not wrong to take advantage of good deals. I'm just saying if we're not careful, we can focus too much on ourselves as we shop. And the last danger is just that traditions can choke out opportunities for worshiping God. Christmas traditions can be very powerful in both good and harmful ways. Properly done, traditions can build and continue precious memories. They can bring us back time and again to the goodness and beauty and greatness of God's character and work. Done poorly, though, they can replace worship of the one true God and keep us from rejoicing and praising Him as we should. As we step aside from Mark for 3 weeks and focus on the incarnation, when God the Son added humanity, when He came to live on earth as one of us, we're going to be focusing specifically on Jesus the coming King. So if you think of the different roles that Jesus has or will have, prophet, priest, king. Last year we took some time to consider the priesthood of Jesus Christ, and this year we're considering His future role of king. The passage for the week is Hebrews 1, 5-14. And I just discussed 3 dangers of the Christmas season, 3 ways we can take our eyes off of God. In Hebrews 1, the author of this book confronts a danger in his own time that he's addressing, and this is not a danger that you think of when you think of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ and what people or others might do to unseat him from lordship in their lives. But it's a danger that was present in their time, and that danger is how people view angels. So I'm going to read all of Hebrews 1. And as I read, watch for how this preacher argues for the superiority of Jesus Christ. And quite simply, he asserts that Jesus is superior to angels. The key verse for this is verse 4, and the verses 5 to 14, our passage, show reasons for Jesus being superior. So please listen as I read Hebrews 1. Long ago, many times and in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets. But in these last days he spoke to us by his Son, whom he appointed the heir of all things, through whom also he created the world. He is the radiance of the glory of God and the exact imprint of his nature, and he upholds the universe by the word of his power. After making purification for sins, he sat down at the right hand of the majesty on high, having become as much superior to angels as the name he has inherited is more excellent than theirs. For to which of the angels did God ever say, "You are my Son, today I have begotten you"? Or again, "I will be to him a father, he shall be to me a son"? And again, when he brings the firstborn into the world, he says, "Let all God's angels worship him." Of the angels, he says, he makes his angels winds and his ministers a flame of fire. But of the Son, he says, "Your throne, O God, is forever and ever. The scepter of uprightness is the scepter of your kingdom. You have loved righteousness and hated wickedness. Therefore God, your God, has anointed you with the oil of gladness beyond your companions. And you, Lord, laid the foundation of the earth in the beginning, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They will perish, but you remain. They will all wear out like a garment. Like a robe, you will roll them up. Like a garment, they will be changed, but you are the same, and your years will have no end." And to which of the angels has he ever said, "Sit at my right hand, until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet"? Are they not all ministering spirits sent out to serve for the sake of those who are to inherit salvation? Now you might think this is supposed to be a Christmas sermon, but your theme is Jesus is superior to angels, so how helpful can that be? But I believe the focus of verses 5 to 14 is his superiority over angels, so that should be the theme for the morning of the text that we recognize. But as we look at that text that shows his superiority, we learn some amazing things about who Jesus is and what his place is in the world to come. So my approach this morning is going to be slightly different than normal. There are some pretty major questions to work through in Hebrews 1. Some of these verses are difficult to understand, and my goal is to do more of the skimming off the top, not totally skimming, but looking at the big picture, less working through all of those specific details, so that we can then see within this chapter what it presents about Jesus becoming king. So that's once we get to the theological truths, we'll look at his kingship. But to get there, we need to ask the question of the text, how is Jesus superior to angels? And that might not seem like something immediately helpful to you, but as we see Christ here, as we see Christ in his future glory, there's much to behold and there's much to be encouraged by. So, how is Jesus superior to angels? Well, first, he has a superior status, verses 5 and 6. As we look at verse 5, we find a question that begins like this. To which of the angels did God ever say? If you're familiar with the finer details of logic, this is an argument from silence, but it gets the point across. God talks about his Son differently than how he talks about angels. The very way that God talks about his Son shows that the Son has a whole different status than they do. Verses 5 to 6 work together to speak, it seems, of the Son's exaltation. This is after his death, after his resurrection, as he returns to heaven to be with God the Father. Some have understood these references to be speaking of the birth of Jesus, and that can tend to make sense too, but I lean more towards seeing this as his exaltation. The preacher who wrote the book of Hebrews had an interesting way of using Old Testament text, to say the least. My purpose in this text is not to go into all those finer details, but the first text that he refers to in verse 5 is Psalm 2, verse 7. Psalm 2 was not written as a messianic psalm, but the author here refers this verse to Jesus, something Paul does in Acts 13:33. Psalm 2:7 says, I will tell the decree, the Lord said to me, you are my son. Today I have begotten you. The second quote in verse 5 refers either to 2 Samuel 7:14 or 1 Chronicles 17:13. And this is part of God's promise to David about the future king who will be from David's line. The 1 Chronicles verse says this, I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son. I will not take my steadfast love from him, as I took it from him who was before you. So what's the point of the author of Hebrews? He's getting across that Jesus has a special status as the Son of God, and angels are not called the Son of God. God speaks differently of angels. It does bring an interesting dilemma, though. Back in verse 2 of Hebrews 1, the Son is the one who is the heir of all things, and the one through whom God created the world. So if he's the one through whom God created the world, then how is he at some point begotten or born of God? How is it that God then later decides to be his Father if the Son was already with God before creation? And if your mind is spinning at this point, again, there's some complexities here, but these verses speak of the Son's exaltation. See, the question is, when verse 5 says, today I have begotten you, what day is that referring to? What day is today? This is very similar to asking when it was in verse 6 that God brought the Son into the world, the firstborn, as he's called it. So as you see verses 5 and 6, think of the formal recognition. Think of a ceremony, an enthronement ceremony almost, something similar to that. A celebration in heaven for the Son. The point is that Jesus is the exalted Son while the angels are not, and God is recognizing him as that exalted Son. In fact, angels not only are they now worshipped, but they are, in verse 6, set to worship him. The author's not getting into a lot of specifics here in these two verses. He wants to claim that the Son of God is the only one who has that status as the firstborn, or when you see the word firstborn, think preeminent. The one above all others, not so much speaking to his birth, but his preeminence, his place over others. Maybe we don't understand why some of that day had trouble with focusing on angels too much, but I would argue that we still have the same basic problem today of seeing Jesus as the preeminent one who's over all things. We still have that battle of keeping Jesus as Lord in our lives, of recognizing that he is the one who rules, who is to rule over all things that we do. He is the one to be worshipped. I fear that compartmentalizing is all too easy when it comes to what we truly worship. And the temptation can be to keep the worship for Jesus at church, but then Christmas is for family, and work is so that we can have the hobbies and extras that we want to, so that we can have the fulfilling career. Entertainment is so that we can get the rest and relaxation we deserve. Social media is for attention. Relationships are for the joy and encouragement we need. And the list goes on. And I know I'm broad brushing, but we can easily compartmentalize our lives. And the result is that we fail to recognize that Jesus is Lord over all those things. Whatever it is from creation that you could put in the blank, or whoever it is, that your heart desires to truly have authority over you, Jesus is superior. This becomes more apparent as we go along. Verses 7 and 9 show that Jesus has a superior responsibility over angels. In verse 7, the author says, of the angels, he says, and in verse 8 he says, but of the Son, he says. So there's the next comparison. Verse 7 points back to Psalm 104:4, but perhaps more difficult is figuring out what it means that God makes the angels winds and a flame of fire. Down in verse 14, we see that the angels are ministering spirits sent out to serve. Angels, like the rest of the created world, serve God's purposes. Wind and fire can each be quite powerful, but they are both part of God's created world. He uses angels to accomplish what he wants. And that work of God through angels is that which we can't fully detect. As the passage in John 3 talks about, you can't see where wind is coming from and where it's going. Don't want to draw too much comparison there. I think the main point is that those are things that happen in God's creation. Powerful things, yes. Maybe some things hard to control or understand. Angels are part of God's creation. We should keep in mind the main point of that. They are part of his creation. They are to carry out his will. But of the Son, verses 8 and 9 show, we see there's really no comparison between angels and the Son of God. Back in verse 5, we learned that the speaker for these different phrases is God. Of the Son, he says in verse 8, your throne, O God, is forever and ever. Already we have enough in these words to see a huge distinction between the Son and angels and any other part of God's world. For that matter, when it comes to the basic categories of created and uncreated, the Son is not created. Creation is, of course, from God. And so angels, as part of creation, they're created beings. They are not the same as the Son, who has always been. God himself calls the Son God, and this Son will reign forever and ever. As God, this is fitting and right. Even more so when we read the end of verse 8, that the Son will reign forever in uprightness. We know very well in today's world that an upright ruler is rare. And no one will compare to the level of uprightness that Jesus will show during his reign. I should note, too, that this is just a side comment. We're not studying Hebrews long-term here, but the concept of eternity appears at several points in the book. It's an interesting thing to watch out for if you're reading through. Questions abound when it comes to wondering if Jesus, the Son, is already on the throne. Is Jesus reigning today over all things? That's a huge topic in some circles. Hebrews 12:2 says, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. I'm most comfortable with saying that Jesus has not yet taken the throne, specifically the Davidic throne, but he is with God the Father at the right hand of the throne of God. But again, that's not the focus here. When the Son will begin his reign, it's not the focus. Rather, the focus is that the Son is divine and therefore not part of creation. How can we know this? God calls him God and speaks of his forever throne. But it's interesting to look at what it says after this. The scepter of uprightness is the scepter of your kingdom. Because of how the Son has loved righteousness and hated wickedness, God has anointed him with the oil of gladness, again symbolizing that the Son is superior. Of course, the anointing goes along with the anointed one, the Christ. Also, Hebrews 12:2, which I've already read, points to the joy that was before Jesus as he endured the cross and the shame. Now that he has completed his earthly mission and endured the cross, God anoints him with the oil of gladness. I think we get that. You finish a hard task, something hard, which what you were to do and complete. There's a joy that comes with that completion. When others recognize that furthers the gratification, not necessarily an automatically bad way. He had a more difficult road to go than any of us in facing the cross, and afterwards was a time of gladness. The angels do not and never will rule as the Son does. The Son's unique mission from God has brought about a superior recognition, and that sets him above others. He is, after all, the one whom God has anointed. Maybe it's fitting, in light of these truths, to consider whether anything else can truly compare to Jesus, the Son of God, when it comes to his future reign. Here in Hebrews, we see his future responsibility of king being compared to the angels, but we can also compare this, our future king, with other things or people that we allow to rule over us. Whatever or whoever else we want to serve, nothing and no one compares to Jesus, who will be the king forever. No one can compare to him when it comes to love for righteousness and hatred for wickedness. No one else will ever be God's anointed. As you serve other things and pursue other things, how will those other masters rule over you? authority in your life? What will they do to your life? Will they rule over you in righteousness? Will they rule over you in such a way that helps you to hate wickedness? Will that be creating further gladness for God himself? The text pictures his son as having a scepter of uprightness. His rule was to be characterized by integrity. He will live and rule in an honorable, right way. But let's do some introspection this morning as you consider, during the Christmas season, the kind of king that you really want. Would the king that your heart craves be holding a scepter of uprightness? Would his rule be characterized as loving and doing and upholding what is right? The Son has a superior responsibility, and that is to rule forever. That rule is to be characterized, or will be characterized, by righteousness. We don't immediately think of world rulers today holding scepters. Maybe if you know of a monarchy, there's this official ceremony where they hold a scepter, but we don't think of them carrying out their duties while holding a scepter. And so I've tried to think of what would be comparable in our understanding today. And I mean no disrespect to Jesus, our Lord, in this comparison. I hope the illustration helps drive the point home. If Jesus were to have a Twitter account that he used during his reign to communicate to his kingdom, his Twitter feed, I dare say, would give us glimpses of what it means to love righteousness and hate wickedness. Imagine daily reminders towards godliness and righteousness from the ruler of the world as he takes definite steps to uphold what is right. Don't even go into the whole question of, well, do you think that will happen? I'm not going there. But think of how we process and analyze the tenures of the world leaders. How do we understand the actions that they take? How do we grade them in our own minds? And maybe there's some analogy there that will help us to see the vast difference that will be present when Jesus finally reigns. He has a superior status, the Son. He has a superior responsibility, the eternal King. He has a superior level of consistency, verses 10 to 12. The comparison of verses 10 to 12 is between Jesus, the Son, and everything else. He is the one who laid the foundation of the earth and who made the heavens. He is the one who will remain even after creation wears out like a piece of clothing. So the Son, that God says, you are the same, and your years will have no end. Many in the time of Jesus believed that the world could not be destroyed. But in reality, it's only God himself that can remain unchanged while having no end. The author of Hebrews uses Psalm 102, 25 to 27 to bring out these truths. And later the author will say in Hebrews 13:8, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. Wonderful verse. But not only does the Son not change, he also changes what is around him with ease. Like a robe, he will roll them up. There's a reason that our family takes pictures every Christmas so that we can send those pictures out. There's a reason that parents spend money on school pictures of their children every year and not just one time. There's a reason that at the doctor's office they record a patient's weight before the checkup. People change. And that change goes far deeper than weight gain or loss. We are subject to the effects of time. We age. Some wish that they could be older, some here wish that they could be younger, but we ultimately have no control over the process of aging. Perhaps you say, though, that in this passage it's not people that are being compared to the Son of God, but angels, and they don't age. But the Son has authority not only to lay the foundations of the earth and the heavens, but also to change things within creation as he pleases. Angels can do neither of these things. There's nothing within creation that stays the same as God stays the same, as the Son stays the same. He has a superior level of consistency. He does not change. Superior status, superior responsibility, superior consistency, and Jesus has a superior position. While angels are ministering spirits sent out to serve for the sake of those who are to inherit salvation, the Son sits at the right hand of God himself. And of course, there's things to wonder about in that last verse, right? What does it mean that angels serve believers? But that's not the point overall. They have a special role in the lives of believers, but they are, after all, beings who are serving as God determined. In contrast to the angels, the Son is sitting at the right hand of God. This is a reference to Psalm 110, verse 1, a rather significant text. The difference in the position of the Son and of the angels is clear. He is waiting to rule while the angels are serving believers. That's a good role, that's a helpful role. But it's not the same role as the Son. Jesus had his time on earth when he was serving. His task in the future is not to serve, but to rule. There really should be no doubt. Jesus Christ, the Son, is far superior to angels. His status as Son sets him above the angels. His future responsibility of being king sets him above them. His consistency, not changing, sets him above them. And his position at the right hand of God sets him above them. So I've tried to leave us maybe a little bit more time to consider some theological truths at this point. And we've seen the superiority of Jesus. Let's identify those truths related to Hebrews 1 and related to Jesus, the future king. And these truths from this passage really fit underneath this summarizing truth. Jesus will be the superior king. He will be the superior king. When Jesus finally takes the Davidic throne and reigns on the earth, he will rule as no other king has ever ruled. He will be the superior king. And here are 4 characteristics about his reign for us to consider. First, his reign will be a cause for celebration. His reign will be a cause for celebration. Maybe you see this first characteristic and you think, there have been many rulers who, when they got into power, their followers celebrated. In fact, every time we have a presidential election, it's very clear that those who are supporting the winner are celebrating once that's finally determined. And you're right, we don't have a king in America, but as that happens, we see the celebration. But look at verse 9 and see what this celebration looks like in Hebrews 1. Because the Son loves righteousness and hates wickedness, God anoints him with the oil of gladness beyond others. This pictures the joy that this king has and brings because of his love for righteousness and hatred for wickedness. Consider Proverbs 16, 12, and 13. It's an abomination to kings to do evil, but the throne is established by righteousness. Righteous lips are the delight of the king, and he loves him who speaks what is right. Jesus will be the superior, supreme example of such a king. As we know that he is right in all that he does, Jesus will never rule in an unrighteous manner. He will never do evil. And his very reign, as a result, will bring joy and delight to others. He has to rule in such a way as fitting and good for the kingdom. Every ruler on the earth, to this point, has ruled while being a sinner. We're sinners as well, but we recognize then that no monarch, no president, no ruler has always loved righteousness and always hated wickedness. And when the opposite happens, so that a king loves wickedness and hates righteousness, such a time is not a time of rejoicing and gladness, but of heaviness and sorrow. To be under someone else's authority, so that the person has power over you, and either to suffer because you did right, or to suffer because the one in authority is allowing people to practice evil, both of those scenarios are black marks against that authority. To give an example, there's a reason that people generally can't stand bullies. We don't like the perversion of justice. There's something in us that knows things are wrong when someone more powerful than us hurts us like that or takes advantage of us. But the reign of Jesus, the future king, will be perfectly righteous. Not only is that very good, but it's also something that will cause great joy. His reign will be a cause for celebration. Also, his reign will be cause for worship. Verse 6 shows the call for the angels to worship Jesus, the Son of God. But considering this passage as a whole, it'll be very clear that this future king is worthy of worship. Why? Well, he's God. He will reign forever. He will rule rightly and hate wickedness. He will not change. That's an amazing list. Think about this list again in light of the rulers that we know, as good as they might be. Jesus is God. He will reign forever. He will rule rightly and hate wickedness, and he will not change. There's no other king who's ever reigned or ever will reign or ever can reign who will compare to Jesus in these ways. So broadly speaking, let's compare what this passage says about Jesus and what we know of our world rulers today. I don't say this to give free allowance to disrespect those in authority over us, but I want us to see the very stark difference between merely human rulers and Jesus. His reign will be cause for worship. As men and women lead nations today, what is their tenure in office cause for? How do their policies and behavior cause us to react? Our nation has had some good leaders, even some godly ones in the past. But none of our leaders are worthy of worship for what they have done, and all of our former presidents have made mistakes of one nature or another. They are, after all, human. Jesus alone will reign in such a way that worshiping him will be right and fitting for all who will be part of that kingdom. Also, his reign, number 3, will not end. Your throne, O God, is forever and ever. Today, no ruler on earth has figured out how to stay in office forever. There is no comparison to line up anybody else, the longest standing ruler on earth, and it will not compare to the rule that Jesus will have. His reign will be forever. Admittedly, forever is a hard concept for us to grasp. If you want to feel very small and helpless, meditate on the concept of eternity. And that can quickly overwhelm us. It can quickly overwhelm me. Jesus will reign. Once the future king, Jesus takes the throne. No one else ever will. And last, his reign will be all-inclusive. Inclusion is an important concept today, but I'm not sure people mean it in the way I'm using it here. Jesus will reign over all. God says to the Son, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. No one will be able to stand against Jesus. He will rule over all. Some will try to rise up against him and throw off his leadership, and they will lose. So we're going to sing very soon, Jesus shall reign where'er the sun doth his successive journeys run. His kingdom stretch from shore to shore till moons shall wax and wane no more. Jesus will be the superior king. This we know because this is what the Bible teaches. But what kind of response should we have to these truths today? How do we apply these things to our lives? Why do these things matter? The first response should always be to accept and trust God's word. So start by believing in what the Bible says about the person and work of Jesus, the Son of God. Put your faith in him as the one who died on the cross so that others can be forgiven and have eternal life from God. And as we've studied this morning, know that Jesus will reign one day over all things. So the first response should be to accept what the Bible teaches about Jesus. Secondly, put your hope for the future in God's hands. Some things are very wrong with the world in which we live. There's injustice and hatred and murder and a whole host of other things, other wrong things around us. And we live in a very stable country compared to many others. So many around the world have it much worse. And I'm not saying be totally disconnected from all politics, but I'm saying put your ultimate hope in God and in his plan for the future. And third, in this time of Christmas celebration, remember that nothing and no one compares to this Jesus. I would encourage you to think through what that means and how that truth should be evident in your life from day to day. Nothing and no one compares to Jesus. Perhaps you'll sing sometime in the days ahead, Away in a Manger. And there's a reason somebody loved that song, especially children. Just remember, during all the hustle and bustle of the next few weeks, Jesus is no longer in that manger. He's no longer a baby wrapped in swaddling clothes. He's no longer helplessly depending on his mother. Jesus is the exalted Son of God, sitting in the throne room of heaven, waiting until the day when he comes to conquer the world. No one will stand against him. One day he will merely speak and instantly defeat all who stand against him. He is the one who one day will reign over the whole earth. This is Jesus, the God who will rule